This is Rummy's Corner. Felix Trinidad got his first opportunity to fight for a major world title on June 19th, 1993, when he challenged IBF welterweight champion Maurice Blocker. Things began with a feeling out process where both boxers were looking to counter. In round 2, Trinidad opened up and landed a prolonged series of explosive power shots. Blocker was doing his best to fend him off, but Trinidad was relentless. Tito finished matters when he brutally dropped Blocker. It was a second-round knockout, and Felix Trinidad had just become the new IBF welterweight champion. Trinidad made his first title defense on August 6, 1993, when he faced challenger Luis Garcia. Trinidad caught Garcia with a big right early on, and he followed up and sent Garcia down. Garcia beat the count, and Trinidad soon had him down again. Garcia again managed to beat the count, and Trinidad unloaded ferociously. Garcia was down for a third time, yet he rose and continued battling, but not for long. Trinidad dropped him a fourth time, and the referee had finally decided he had seen enough. It was a first-round technical knockout for Tito. Trinidad made his second title defense against Anthony Stevens on October 23, 1993. Things began with a tactical rhythm where Stevens was using a lot of lateral movement and finding sneaky ways to land. In round 3, Stevens landed a big right on the button that caused Trinidad's glove to touch the canvas. But referee William Connors did not rule it a knockdown. Trinidad turned up the heat in round 4 and seized command of the momentum. Over the next several rounds, Trinidad was consistently finding ways to create openings. Stevens was absorbing a lot of punishment where he was simply outgunned. In round 10, Trinidad had Stevens on wobbly legs. Stevens made a spirited last stand, but just as round 10 was ending, Trinidad landed a short left that dropped the challenger. Stevens was unable to beat the count, and it was a 10th round knockout for Tito. On January 29, 1994, Trinidad made his third defense when he squared off against former two-division champion Hector Macho Camacho. The action began at a deliberate pace as Camacho was using a lot of movement, while Trinidad was patiently looking for ways to apply pressure. Camacho's speed and experience served him well in the early rounds, but Trinidad was sometimes finding angles to land. In round 5, referee Joe Cortez deducted a point from Trinidad for holding and hitting. Things remained tactical throughout, but during the middle and later rounds, Trinidad was finding ways to land short combinations, and he was usually landing harder, often when he was able to trap Camacho up against the ropes. Camacho was deducted a point in round 10 for excessive holding, and Trinidad commanded the action down the final stretch where Camacho was just trying to survive. At the end of 12 rounds, Trinidad was awarded a unanimous decision victory with scores of 117-109, 116-110, and 119-106. Trinidad made his fourth title defense on September 17, 1994, when he squared off against undefeated challenger URIboi Campus. Early on, the challenger was trying to apply pressure, but it was the champion who was landing sharper. In round 2, as the two boxers battled in tight, URIboi landed a short, heavy hook that dropped Trinidad. He beat the count and rebounded well as he was landing himself near the end of the round. Campus was launching hurtful shots in round 3, and referee Richard Steele took a point from Trinidad for punching low. Things evolved into a phone booth brawl. Both men battled with mean intentions. This trend continued into the next round, but Trinidad simply had more firepower. The champion was furious with his assault, and Richard Steele jumped in to wave it off. It was a 4th round technical knockout for Tito. Trinidad made his 5th title defense when he squared off against undefeated challenger Oba Carr on December 10, 1994. The fight began with both boxers trying to get their jabs going as they were trying to establish position. Early in round 2, Carr drilled Trinidad with a beautiful right hand. Trinidad was down and quickly bounced to his feet. Carr was poised and patient as both resumed boxing. A pattern emerged where this became a highly engaging chess match. There was a lot of jabbing and maneuvering for favorable angles. Sometimes they slugged it out, and whenever this happened, Trinidad almost always got the best of these exchanges. In round 8, Felix landed a crushing right that dropped Carr. He beat the count, but Trinidad soon had him down again. Carr beat the count, but Trinidad had him in trouble yet again, and referee Robert Gonzalez waved it off. It was an 8th round technical knockout for Tito. On April 8, 1995, Trinidad made his 6th title defense against challenger Roger Turner. The challenger was trying to utilize speed and movement while using his jab to keep the action at long distance. In round 2, Trinidad caught Turner on the way in with a clubbing left hook that sent him down. Turner beat the count, but Trinidad jumped all over him and referee Mitch Halpern stopped the fight. It was a 2nd round technical knockout for Tito. Trinidad made his 7th title defense on November 18, 1995, when he squared off against challenger Larry Barnes. The challenger was providing an elusive, tricky target in the early going. Barnes was trying to stay very low, and he was bobbing and weaving his way around the ring. Trinidad hurt Barnes with a left in round 4, and Tito went on the attack. Trinidad was throwing and landing a lot of hard leather, and to his credit, Barnes was battling. But Trinidad kept firing away, and Barnes finally went down after a wicked left to the body. The referee didn't like what he saw, and he waved it off before finishing the count. It was a 4th round technical knockout for Tito. Trinidad made his 8th title defense on February 10, 1996, when he faced Rodney Moore. The fight began with a measured pace, and Trinidad was able to find a rhythm with his jab in round 2. Trinidad was soon landing some vicious lefts to the body that had Moore uncomfortable. In round 4, Trinidad dropped Moore with a body shot. Rockin' Rodney beat the count, but Trinidad had him down again near the end of the round. Moore beat the count and the round was over, but the fight was stopped prior to the start of round 5. It was a 4th round technical knockout for Trinidad. On May 18, 1996, Trinidad made his 9th title defense when he squared off against challenger Freddie Pendleton. Things began with a customary feeling out process with a lot of feinting and posturing as each boxer was looking to work the jab. It remained a battle of jabs during the early rounds, and Trinidad was sometimes landing some nice rights. The action heated up in round 4 where the two were slugging it out more. In round 5, Trinidad dropped Pendleton with a crippling left to the body. Referee Richard Steele counted him out and the fight was over. It was a 5th round knockout for Tito. Trinidad made his 10th title defense on September 7, 1996, when he faced challenger Rey Lovato. Trinidad was patient early as he was utilizing good movement while trying to get a feel for the challenger. The pace remained slow and calculating in the early going, where Lovato was having difficulty finding a target. But as the rounds progressed, he began attacking with more success. But Trinidad began landing better too. In round 6, Trinidad staggered Lovato and had him in trouble. The champion began unloading on Lovato, and referee Mitch Halpern didn't like what he saw. It was a 6th round technical knockout for Tito. Trinidad made his 11th title defense when he squared off against challenger Kevin Lushing on January 11, 1997. Things began slowly as each boxer was trying to gauge the range and reactions of the other. In round 2, Lushing hurt Trinidad with a left hook, and he followed that up to floor the champion. Trinidad beat the count and recovered quickly. In round 3, Trinidad landed a double left hook downstairs and up that dropped Lushing. He beat the count, and Trinidad was patient with his follow-up. Trinidad had the challenger down again late in the round. He beat the count again, and Trinidad drilled him with a mean right hand that had him down for the third time just as the round ended. The fight was over. It was a third round technical knockout for Tito. On April 3, 1998, Trinidad made his 12th title defense against challenger Mahenge Zulu. The action began at a very measured pace, with both boxers feeling things out. This trend continued in the early rounds, where Zulu was doing a lot of lunging, and Trinidad was patiently scoping to create openings. In round 4, Trinidad landed some crippling lefts downstairs, before ultimately landing a couple of hooks to the head that smashed Zulu down to the canvas. Zulu could not beat the count, and the fight was over. It was a 4th round knockout for Tito. Trinidad made his 13th title defense on February 20th, 1999, when he squared off against former 4-division world champion Pernell Sweet Pea Whittaker. Things began with a tactical rhythm where Trinidad was looking to get his jab going and Sweet Pea was looking to work underneath. Late in round 2, Trinidad landed a quick right down the pipe that dropped Whittaker. Whittaker bounced up quickly and did not appear hurt. A pattern emerged over the next several rounds where Trinidad was consistently outboxing Whittaker. Sweet Pea didn't have the pop to slow Tito down, and Trinidad capitalized whenever Whittaker provided him with a more stationary target. Whittaker's experience allowed him to have some scoring moments along the way, but Trinidad was controlling the action and landing harder and more often. At the conclusion of 12 rounds, Trinidad was awarded a unanimous decision victory, with 2 judges scoring it 118 to 109, and the other judge having it 117 to 111. Trinidad made his 14th title defense on May 28, 1999, when he went up against challenger Hugo Pineda. Early on, the challenger was trying to use his long southpaw jab to keep the action outside. As the early rounds progressed, Trinidad began finding more ways to close the gap. In round 4, Trinidad unleashed a mean assault that had Pineda in trouble. The challenger was fighting back the best he could, but a series of well-placed punches punctuated by a left to the body dropped Pineda. Referee Roberto Ramirez counted him out and the fight was over. It was a 4th round knockout for Tito. On September 18, 1999, Trinidad made the 15th title defense in a unification bout against undefeated WBC welterweight champion Oscar De La Hoya. Both boxers were displaying a lot of mutual respect in the early going. The fight had a very tactical rhythm. De La Hoya was using a lot of movement, and Trinidad was trying to apply pressure. At times, both boxers were having effective spots during the early rounds, but De La Hoya's edge and quickness started providing him with an advantage. De La Hoya was able to put together some nice short combinations. Trinidad was landing well too, but less frequently and usually only one at a time. During the middle rounds, De La Hoya was using his jab well and Trinidad was having trouble closing the distance. De La Hoya was in complete command during that stretch, but during the later rounds, De La Hoya took his foot off the gas, and Trinidad started closing the gap much more effectively. Down the final stretch, Trinidad was outworking and out-hustling Oscar. At the conclusion of 12 rounds of action, it was a majority decision. One judge had it even at 114 apiece, overruled by the other 2 judges who both scored it for Tito 115 to 114 and 115 to 113. Felix Trinidad had just become the new unified IBF WBC welterweight champion of the world. Trinidad got his next opportunity to compete for a major title on March 3, 2000, when he challenged undefeated WBA junior middleweight champion David Reed. The action began a bit tentatively as both boxers were exhibiting caution, but Trinidad was landing more and landing with more authority. In round 3, the champion dropped Trinidad with a nice right hand. Felix beat the count and survived the round without further incident. Over the next few rounds, there were a lot of mini shifts in momentum where both boxers were landing well and boxing efficiently. Near the end of round 7, Trinidad unleashed a mean flurry that dropped Reed. He beat the count and survived, but Trinidad had seized the momentum. Reed was deducted a point for a low blow in round 9. In round 11, Trinidad dropped Reed. Reed got up, but Trinidad soon had him down again. Then Trinidad was deducted a point for a low blow. But as round 11 neared its end, Trinidad dropped Reed yet again. To his credit, Reed managed to survive, and at the end of 12 rounds, Trinidad was awarded a unanimous decision, with 2 judges scoring it 114 to 107, and the other having it 114 to 106. Felix Trinidad had just become the new WBA junior middleweight champion, making him a 2-division world champion. Trinidad made his first title defense on July 22, 2000, when he faced challenger Mamadou Tiem. In the opening round, Trinidad hurt Tiem and he started battering him mercilessly. Trinidad was unloading and Tiem was staggering around the ring, but he managed to stay on his feet and survive the onslaught. Mamadou rebounded well in round 2 and he began mounting some quality offense of his own, but Trinidad had him hurt again as the round ended. More fireworks erupted in round 3, and Tiem's eye was completely closed shut as he was absorbing a tremendous beating. Tiem stopped fighting and informed referee Jorge Alonso that he had enough. The fight was over. It was a 3rd-round technical knockout for Tito. On December 2, 2000, Trinidad made his second title defense in a unification bout against undefeated IBF junior middleweight champion Fernando Vargas. Early in round 1, Trinidad stunned Vargas and scored a knockdown. Vargas got up and Trinidad immediately knocked him down again. But Vargas cleared his head and managed to get his legs back. During the next couple of rounds, Trinidad was generally landing more and landing bigger, but Vargas maintained his composure and started boxing well himself. Early in round 4, El Feroz clobbered Trinidad with a wicked left that sent him down. Trinidad beat the count and was soon deducted a point for a low blow. This evolved into a brutal, grueling affair where both men were landing and absorbing a lot of mean leather. Trinidad was deducted another point for a low blow in round 7. The tactical rhythm resumed, and things remained very explosive. Vargas was deducted a point for a low blow in round 10. In round 12, Trinidad landed a catapulting left that floored Vargas. He beat the count and was immediately sent down again with another bludgeoning left. Vargas did his best to survive, but Trinidad soon drilled him with a monster right that had him down for the 5th time in the contest. The fight was over. It was a 12th round technical knockout, and Trinidad had just become the new unified WBA IBF junior middleweight champion. Trinidad got his next opportunity to compete for a major world title on May 12th, 2001, when he challenged WBA middleweight champion William Joppy. The champion tried pressing the action early, but after Tito got a feel for him, he went on the attack before rocking Joppy with a big counter left. Trinidad was hammering Joppy, and as the opening round was nearing the end, Felix landed a big right followed by a couple of sweet lefts and Joppy was down. He beat the count and survived the round. Joppy put forth a strong effort and was fighting back the next couple of rounds with a high-volume attack, but Trinidad was still usually getting the best of these exchanges. Trinidad floored Joppy again early in round 4. Joppy made it to his feet and battled back the best he could, but he was having a lot of difficulty fending off Trinidad's powerful assaults. Near the end of round 5, Trinidad nailed Joppy with 2 menacing rights that had him down again. Joppy beat the count, but he was stumbling badly, and referee Arthur Mercanti Jr. had seen enough. Felix Trinidad had just become the new WBA middleweight champion of the world, making him a 3-division world champion. On September 29, 2001, Trinidad made his first title defense in a unification bout against a unified IBF WBC middleweight champion Bernard the Executioner Hopkins. Both boxers were showing tremendous mutual respect early on. Hopkins was utilizing good lateral movement and excellent footwork to prevent Trinidad from discovering his range. A pattern emerged where Hopkins was controlling the distance and the tempo to his liking, where he was winning the battle of jabs and mixing in some nice counter rights. On the outside, Hopkins was using his jab and footwork to control the action, and on the inside, he was simply outfighting and outmaneuvering Trinidad. To his credit, Trinidad never stopped trying as he was searching for ways to land on his slippery opponent, but Hopkins started really beating him up late in the contest. In the 12th and final round, Hopkins drilled Trinidad with a perfectly timed counter right that sent Trinidad tumbling down. Felix managed to beat the count, but his corner had seen enough and they stopped the fight. Bernard Hopkins had just become the new, undisputed IBF WBC WBA middleweight champion of the world. This wound up being the final championship contest during the outstanding Hall of Fame career of Felix Tito Trinidad. In conclusion, with regards to championship contests, at welterweight, Trinidad had 16 victories with 0 defeats, 0 draws, and 13 of those 16 wins coming by way of knockout. At junior middleweight, Trinidad had 3 victories with 0 defeats, 0 draws, and 2 of those 3 wins coming by way of knockout. And at middleweight, Trinidad had 1 victory with 1 defeat, 0 draws, and that lone victory coming by knockout. So the final championship record for Felix Trinidad consisted of 21 contests, with 20 victories, 1 defeat, 0 draws, and 16 of those 20 victories coming by way of knockout. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed and have a wonderful night. This is Rummy's Corner.